Hello, I'm Darren again. Today's the last part in a short series looking at how narcissistic people gain and maintain control over others. Now, previously, I'd outlined how they can problematize things to cause chaos, confusion, and guilt trip. Then I'd looked at how they can use and manipulate language. Today, I'm going to focus on how they can use and abuse rules and concepts in order to manipulate, threaten, punish, and dominate. And when I refer to narcissism, I will refer to it in the context of the dark tetrad. Alongside the narcissism, we see psychopathy, which is being callous. There's Machiavellianism, which is being manipulative. And there's sadism, which is being cruel. And the following could apply to workplaces, community groups, organisations, as well as in their personal relationships and families. And please bear in mind, I will be talking about a long-term consistent pattern of behaviours, not just occasionally. So, if you find this to be interesting, please consider subscribing. So let's begin. First of all, with narcissism, what we often see are a lot of double standards. Narcissistic people often interpret rules and concepts in ways that benefit them or that suit their agenda, even if their interpretation contradicts the intended purpose or the actual meaning. For instance, we do seem to have quite a lot of educated narcissists. They know the language, they know the terms, they know the concepts. So, if they were being overly disagreeable or being difficult, well, they might claim they're just being assertive. All they're doing is managing their boundaries. And they could well be. However, those boundaries might be far too rigid and inflexible, their expectations unreasonable. Now, if someone else is being assertive, managing their boundaries, well, the narcissistic person might claim that they just don't care. They might claim that they lack empathy. They might accuse them of being the toxic one. They can also selectively exploit and enforce rules to control or punish certain people while they exempt themselves and their own friends and allies. This is often referred to as selective rule enforcement. For instance, one person might be punished for a particular behaviour, but someone else, one of their friends, one of their allies, they aren't. And they'll usually have some kind of lame excuse for their leniency. And this kind of behaviour is very common in narcissistic families. For instance, the golden child might be given a lot of slack, might get away with a lot of things, but the scapegoat is often punished for the same offence. Selective enforcement creates an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. It also creates division. It also highlights hypocrisy. They punish others while they turn a blind eye to their own transgressions. If you will, it's do as I say, don't do as I do. Next, there can be a lot of gaslighting, manipulating others into questioning their own perceptions and reality. They might claim that someone is just overreacting or misinterpreting something, especially if they're being unkind and abusive. They try to undermine other people's credibility just to maintain control over the narrative, over the situation. When confronted with their own behaviours, they often deflect the blame, portray themselves as innocent victims. They might exaggerate or fabricate stories to garner sympathy and avoid facing consequences. However, they can pursue other people relentlessly with their vindictiveness. Moving on, they can exploit rules, procedures, and systems that are in place. For instance, in a workplace, if they're caught misbehaving somehow, maybe just not doing their job or whatever, if they're being held to account, well, they might claim that they're being harassed or bullied. They might even take time off or work-related stress. They may even put in grievances against those who just want them to do their job. Another common behaviour associated with narcissism is how they isolate their friends and partners from support networks or social circles. Now, they might show, rather than verbalise, their disapproval of their partner's friends or family. In workplaces or social settings, they might manipulate group dynamics to turn the group against one specific person, to ostracise them. In both cases, though, if they're challenged, well, as far as they're concerned, they haven't actually done or said anything wrong. They didn't intimidate anyone, they didn't threaten anyone. They behave as if their hands are clean. Next, when they are in positions of responsibility and authority, narcissistic people might create arbitrary rules or standards and enforce them rigidly just to maintain a sense of superiority and instill fear in those around them. Now, with dark personality types, here we would say a subtype of the sadistic element known as tyrannical sadism. They force compliance, set people up to fail just to punish them. They make rules up as they go along just to keep people in a state of hypervigilance. They can deliberately withhold information, so that when someone is doing something in ignorance, they get punished for breaking rules they didn't even know existed. Now, I have made videos on the different sadistic subtypes previously if you want to watch those for more information. But they can also create overly complex bureaucratic procedures, and these procedures serve to confuse and frustrate others. They also make it easier for them to maintain control and influence, and make it difficult for other people to challenge them or unseat them. They also create an inner circle with people who agree with them, collude with them, and support them. They withhold, hoard, and selectively share information and resources, and they do this to manipulate others and maintain a power imbalance within that group. They reward those who comply with their demands and support their agenda, and this fosters a culture of favoritism and loyalty. So they reward compliance, but they also punish dissent. They can exploit disciplinary procedures, performance evaluations. They can sanction and retaliate against perceived threats to their control, their superiority. But it fosters a them and us mentality. There's little cliques of groups, and they're often in competition with each other. But it's really just a strategy of divide and conquer. And lastly, whenever they have some form of control, they confuse people by constantly changing the rules, shifting the goalposts as it were. They change their demands, their requirements. They accuse others of incompetence, insubordination, being mean, being horrible, being abusive. And this keeps people in a state of uncertainty and strain. They can feel constantly sabotaged and frustrated. So to summarize, narcissistic people are adept at using rules and expectations to control, manipulate, and maintain power. By exploiting hierarchies, bureaucracy, rules, even simple concepts, they can suppress dissent, enforce compliance, and advance their own interests, often at the expense of others. I often say, by its very nature, narcissism is destructive. They destroy relationships, families, workplaces, organizations, and they often do it from the inside in their attempts to just make things the way they want them. Now, if they can't destroy from the inside, or if they're no longer able to destroy from the inside, they'll try and destroy from the outside through their envy and jealousy. When seeking power, they will use the rules to frustrate, vilify, and climb over those they see in their way. In their personal relationships, they can be cruel and domineering, conditioning those around them to obey and comply. And their lack of empathy and sense of entitlement enables them to justify their actions, and they disregard the impact on those around them. Again, going back to those double standards, if they're caught breaking the rules themselves, well, it's because it's for the greater good. The rules don't apply to them. They are above the rules. They're on a greater mission. So that's just a few ways narcissistic people use rules and procedures to control and dominate others. As always, if there's anything you might like to add, anything I've missed, please use the comment section. There are some interesting conversations start from these videos. But if you want to see an excellent example of how someone uses the rules to dominate and disempower others, an excellent example would be Nurse Ratched, as portrayed by Louise Fletcher in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But in the meantime, I hope you find this short series to be helpful, and until next time, thanks for watching.